What makes a great English teacher? I talked to Grant Sundbye, an English teacher who specializes in helping business professionals develop their English skills. Grant's amazing. He started out working for a company, but then he realized that he could make a bigger impact and help more people if he started his own one-on-one English coaching business. In Grant's own words, his job is to help people gain the communication skills they need to live the lives they really want. I learned so much from talking to Grant. Check it out.
My name is Grant Sundbye, and I got started because I actually lived and taught ESL in Seoul, South Korea, starting in about 2016. And originally, I was at a middle school academy where I helped them with test prep. But after that, I moved into business English coaching one-to-one at an academy for adults. And I really, really enjoyed that. And after doing it for several months, I got pretty good at it. And the people I worked with really liked my classes. But like a lot of people who work in the ESL industry, I felt pretty overworked and pretty undervalued by the company I worked for. And I was looking at how much the students were paying for the classes. And I felt like if I can just figure out how to find my own students, not only will I be able to do work I really enjoy, but I can provide a good living for myself. And so I made that switch in 2019, but for the first several months, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I consider March 2020 to be when I really officially started Grant Sundbye Business and English Coaching, which is an online company I have now where I specialize in helping Korean adults who work in international companies improve their business communication, which can be a number of different things, helping them give more professional presentations, write better emails, helping them with resume, job interview prep, or just speaking more confidently and professionally in the workplace. So basically, the way I look at it, my job is to help people gain the communication skills they need to have the lives that they really want. And I've been doing this full time for a little over 2 years, and it's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life.
That's great, man. That's awesome. And what do you think you do better than everybody else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was thinking about that earlier. There are a couple different things. Number one, to succeed in the workplace as a non-native English speaker, you need two things. Number one, you need your actual English skills. You need to have good grammar, good vocabulary, good pronunciation, all of that, just the fundamentals of communication. But as I'm sure you know, communication, it's so much more than that, right? It's so much more than just having words that make sense in the right order in a sentence. You got to have good actual business communication skills. You need to know how to organize a presentation and lead a meeting effectively. If you're going to give a speech to a bunch of shareholders, you need an introduction that's going to grab their attention right off the bat. If you are answering job interview questions, you need to be able to answer them in a way that really shows your value and your passion for whatever this job is, that'll make you stand out and show that you're a great fit. You can have an answer that has good grammar, but if it sucks, it's still a bad answer. And what I've found is there's almost nobody that's teaching both of those things together. You can get English skills from a lot of ESL teachers, and maybe you can get the communication skills from taking like a public speaking course, or if you're familiar with like Simon Sinek, Gary Vaynerchuk, people like that, the business moguls who can kind of teach business leadership and marketing and sales and all that. So you can get both of those things from separate sources, but no one's really teaching them together.
Yeah.
And that's really the goal of what I do with basically all of my clients. We do a lot of, fundamental English skills where I'm helping them fix their speaking, get better vocabulary, fix some grammar mistakes. But we're also planning, practicing, and role playing the actual meetings they're going to have. Or if they're going into an interview, we'll plan outlines for all their answers. We'll do a mock interview together. I'll give them feedback. So it's not just about, hey, I can help your grammar. It's, hey, I can help you move up in your career. And that's what a lot of people really want. And I think that's why people work with me over so many other sources out there.
Yeah. No, that's,
So
go ahead.
oh, go ahead. Sorry. I was going to say that would be a really big thing. And another thing is I am still a student myself. Like in the past year, in 2021, I spent over $10,000 on coaching, on courses, on marketing and sales, public speaking, everything, because if I'm going to teach this stuff, I need to really be an expert at it. Right.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I'm like the greatest speaker or the greatest communicator in the world, but I have learned so much in the past 2 years. And I am a much better speaker and a much better communicator now than I was when I started. And that's true with my communication ability as well as with my actual programs. Because as I invest and as I learn more, I can make the product and the service that I'm giving people that much better. Like since I started in 2020, I've done over 200 12-week programs with different people. And
Wow.
what I'm doing now, it is so much better than when I started. And
Yeah.
even 200 programs and I'm still improving. Like I'm still finding ways to make it a little bit better.
Yeah. And
And
oh, go ahead, finish that thought.
oh, I was going to say, and unfortunately, I think with a lot of ESL teachers who have been, especially teachers who have kind of been in the industry for a while, they've been doing things the exact same way for 5, 10, 15 years. And at this point, they're just kind of going through the motions. And I think it's the cause of that. Is it because it's kind of an undervalued profession, or is it because they're just not that motivated? And then because of that, they can't earn a very good living for themselves. It's a little bit confusing which one came first,
Sure.
but it is very unfortunate for people who spend their time, their money and energy and put faith in someone to say, I want help with my English. I want to get better. And they end up just kind of learning the same generic things that are taught in cheap $15 an hour classrooms that really are not going to help them reach their goals.
Yeah.
And so I would say that I really do pride myself on providing an excellent service for people. And I put in the work necessary to make sure that I can do that. So I would say those two things are the biggest differentiators for me, in that I put a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money into making sure I can provide the best service. And also, I'm taking elements of English learning and real world business communication and putting it together for people.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And it actually kind of leads me to my next question is related to that,
Mhm.
because I
Mhm.
find that there's so much anxiety around learning, not just learning a new language, but being able to speak it and being able to communicate it
Absolutely.
effectively for new
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
What do you do to really handle confidence with your students, especially in like a business environment where it's their career? It's not like
Mhm.
casual conversation between friends or at a party or,
Absolutely. Yeah. The
like
stakes are high. They
the
can be.
stakes are
Yeah.
high and you're battling all this insecurity with like, oh my God, am I pronouncing this correctly? And did I make a mistake? What's everyone thinking about me? And so, do you find that all the development you've done to build your own coaching skills and your own speaking skills, everything you just
Mhm.
mentioned, how does that
Yeah.
carry over into your students?
I think a lot of nerves, not just in English speaking, but in everything in life, it comes from a lack of familiarity and a lack of preparation. When you know you're not ready, you're naturally going to be a lot more nervous.
Hmm.
And so my goal is, whenever anyone has a situation like you're saying, an important presentation, a big business meeting or a job interview, we make our practice as close as possible to the real thing. And so when they go into that situation, it's not the first time they've given that presentation. It's probably at least the third, maybe even more. They will have practiced it at least twice with me. And when we practice, I pretend I'm their boss. I pretend I'm their customer, their business partner. I ask questions exactly like they will in the real meeting. They go through the full thing. And then at the end, I give them detailed feedback on everything, not just their grammar, not just their pronunciation, but how they can make what they're saying more compelling, how they can make a more professional impression. And when you go through that, you get the feedback, you improve. And then once they've made those positive changes, telling them this is so much better, you're going to go into that meeting, you're going to kill it. I think those things, that's probably the best way to help them feel confident and feel ready. Because I can say, you're going to do awesome, good luck, I believe in you. But if there's no real improvements to back up those statements, it doesn't seem very genuine. So I think the first thing is just give them the help they need, because if you're not actually helping them improve and helping them solve their problem, no words of encouragement are going to make much of a difference. So help them improve, show them exactly what they need to do. And then once they've done that, once they've made the improvements, that's when you say, this is so much better than before. You're going to do awesome.
And it sounds like you show them too, right?
Absolutely.
You show
Yeah.
them where they
Yeah.
improve.
Oh,
And
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know if you're a sports fan, but like if you listen to players who are on like the best sports dynasties, right, that win championship after championship, they all say something familiar, is that when it comes time to play the game, it feels like that's our day off because their week of practices are so
Yeah.
intense
They've done
that by
it
the
so
time they
many
get,
times.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's a little like that too. So no, that's really great, man. And so yeah, I mean, that was why I wanted to ask you, like, what do you wish more teachers in this profession knew about the real needs of their students? Because there seems to be an emphasis on like, as long as I stick to the curriculum or get my certifications or just, do the best I
Mhm.
can, I'll be doing what my students need. But is there something you think that is kind of lost on teachers as far as what the real needs is of students? It probably is a lot of overlap between your previous answer, but how would
There
you
is.
phrase that from the teacher's perspective? Like, what do you think teachers are doing wrong, if anything, that is not
Yeah,
you
that's
already
a really good
mentioned?
question. One, that's funny that you mentioned certifications. Never in the history of me doing this have I had anyone ask about any certifications I have. When it comes to the students, and most of them, they don't even know if I got a college degree. You know, your credentials are not nearly as important as the results you can help people get. The credentials, they might be important if you're out searching for a job. If you want to get an ESL job at an academy or a university job, yes, you're going to need, this certain certification. You're going to need a education degree or whatever. But when it comes to finding independent clients on your own, the only thing that matters is, can you really help them? And can you provide a service that's going to get them results? So I would say, keeping that in mind, what I just said, and recognize why they're learning. That's incredibly important. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier. The people that I work with, they're not learning English for fun. They're not learning it as a hobby because they want to be able to have a small talk conversation about their weekend or what sports they like. They're learning it because they want to use English to have a more fulfilling career. And so everything that I do with them is focused on that. And I think a lot of teachers that work with more professional clients, it's too casual, it's too general. It's not really going to help them with the problems they're facing in their workplace every day. And so whether you're an English teacher or really any type of teacher, just be very cognizant of why your students are signing up for your classes. Know about the problems that they're having and make sure that whatever you're offering is a direct solution to those problems.
Do you think your students are very good at communicating that to you when you're doing strategy sessions or even just having interested people come to you?
Mhm. Most of the time they are. Yeah, yeah. And at least at this point, you never want to make assumptions. You always want to ask, because you really want to get to know them and their scenario. But if there is someone who's having some communication issues and maybe they can't articulate things quite as well, I can usually figure out what the real root of the issue is, just because I've done this so long.
Yeah,
So yeah, you got to know what people are really struggling with, why they're talking to you, and what they want out of your program.
I agree. Um, so, and I guess the last couple of questions I had was, do you think that more teachers should be doing this? And that, we see it a lot that I feel the education industry is really shifting. To say nothing of the school
Hmm.
system in the United States, a lot of traditional institutions, a lot of traditional structures of education are crumbling with the world changing so
Oh yeah,
fast.
yeah,
And I guess for
absolutely.
both for that reason and also because for the personal reasons. What do you think about more teachers doing this? Do you think it's something that every teacher should do? Do you think it's something that you wish you saw more teachers doing? And what are your thoughts perhaps around the whole industry shifting in the way I mentioned?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yes and no. So if you're gonna go independent, there are a couple things that you have to have, and if you don't have these things, it's not going to work for you. You have to have a unique service or product that's better than the standard offer that most big academies have. If you don't stand out, if you don't have something that's going to set you apart from the mass of other online teachers and programs, it's going to be very, very hard to keep and attract students. So, at the fundamental core level, you have to be offering a service that stands out and really helps people with a specific problem. But beyond that, just having a good product also, it's not enough. What I really struggled with when I started, it wasn't the teaching, it was the marketing and the sales, because that's something I had zero experience with and I had never done before. And so you have to learn how to market yourself. You have to learn how to connect with your target audience. And when you get people interested in your service, whether they're looking at your website or they're meeting with you for a consultation, you have to have the sales skills to get them to sign up. And I'm in some online communities with a lot of other English teachers, and not to be super negative, but I think a vast majority of them either quit at some point because it's just not working, or they are just barely doing enough to survive and get by. The percentage of people that are going independent and are being very successful, I think it's very, very small when you compare it to everyone that's trying to do it.
Hmm.
And it's because they're most likely not proficient at one of those three things. Either their program doesn't stand out, they're not marketing it in a way that attracts people, and or when they get people interested, they can't seal the deal because they're not confident in their sales skills. You got to have all three. And so if you're interested in going independent, I think it's probably going to be harder than you think. Because when I first started, I thought I was just going to immediately start finding students and there wouldn't be any issues at all. And that was not the case.
Right.
So I think you have to be ready to put in the work to learn, especially learning the business skills that most English teachers don't really have. You have to be ready to take rejection, because even today I still get rejected all the time. And you have to really believe in what you're doing. But if you are able to do those things, I absolutely love what I'm doing now. And I would never go back to an academy. Even, even if I got a job at like the best Korean university in the world, I would still rather be doing what I'm doing now. And the freedom that comes with it, the sense of fulfillment, the sense of pride in knowing that you're building something yourself. You're really working towards your own dream. You're not building an academy for somebody else. That's incredible. And then coupled with getting to help people solve their real world problems, like I love the clients that I work with, man. They're awesome people. They're so motivated. They really value me, and I almost never have to force myself to work. I love what I do. And so if you're able to learn and adapt and get the skills you need and become the kind of person that you need to be to succeed as an independent teacher, absolutely do it, because it's awesome.
Now that's great. And that's the thing about this line of work when you're teaching somebody, you really forge a connection with your students after level because you're
Absolutely.
talking about things that matter to them it's their life and career, and you're helping build
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
key component of building a rich life for them, and it gives you an opportunity to connect with them on a level that you wouldn't get in other industries, which I love about
Very
it,
true.
you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point about building somebody else's dream, I lived in Korea for 2 years and I worked at the academies. I
Hmm.
did all of
Hmm.
that. And I remember I got overworked into some after school class where I had to teach a student, I had to teach a classroom of four for an hour a day, 5 days a week. And then towards the end of the school year, I discovered that each of their parents was paying 1.2 million won per month for an hour a day.
Oh my God.
And my salary was like two of those kids. You know what I mean? Like my
Yeah,
monthly
yeah.
salary. And I thought, what the hell is going, like, is this? And it just, it makes you realize, A, how much parents are willing to pay for that, but also B, how much you're getting
Oh my
hosed by these
God, yeah.
academies, you know?
Yeah, yeah. When I like the academy I worked at in Korea, I was making about US dollars, about $20 an hour, and the students were paying, 70 plus for that class. So yeah. So yeah, you're getting a pretty small cut of the money that the people are actually paying.
I mean, you're a commodity to these people, and so
Yeah, yeah.
that's how it is.
Absolutely.
So, and I had a question I wanted to ask you about like challenges and, you know, here's the
Mhm,
thing though. I,
mhm.
I watched your whole interview with James Liu. It was like an hour and a
Yeah.
half. And so
It's a
I
lot.
really got answers to my questions about like how'd you get to your first, client? How'd you when you get to
Sure,
10K
sure.
or how'd you get to 15K and all these questions I wanted to ask him like, oh, he already talked about all that in this interview. And it was really useful.
Mhm, mhm. Great, great.
So, yeah, so did you want to follow up with anything or any closing thoughts based on what we discussed?
Yeah, yeah. I did prepare an answer to that challenges question,
Oh,
and
well,
it's a
then there we
little
go.
different than what we talked about before. So,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think the biggest challenge, if I could summarize it, it's just getting people to trust you. And at least early on, getting your first couple clients, it is going to be pretty hard. Once you start getting people, there is a bit of a snowball effect when you start getting good reviews, you get more confident in your sales and your marketing and all that. And people are naturally going to believe in you a little bit more. And something that I kind of started struggling with later is I would recommend this to anyone who they start to build a little bit of success is make sure that you don't get an ego and you keep in mind that when you first message people, they don't know you. Because once you've gotten a lot of students and you've developed great results and maybe you have a website with great reviews and you have all these credentials, it can be kind of easy sometimes to just assume that like people know that for some reason. But when you reach out, when you connect with someone online, they don't know you from any other teacher. You're just a stranger to them. And at least at this point with me, if you're in my target audience, if you're a Korean struggling to communicate in the workplace, and if you know everything about who I am, working with me would basically be a no-brainer. But they don't know that. And if you just, however, if you just share all that, if you say, hi, I'm Grant, I built this six-figure business, I have all these credentials, I published a book last year, it sold thousands of copies, and if you just make it all about yourself, it's actually going to kind of turn people off. You can't develop that ego where it's all about you. You have to make it about them. Like even to this day, I have the best results and I have the best success when I'm just genuinely invested in the person I'm talking to,
Yeah.
whether it's on LinkedIn through messages, whether it's in a consultation, just asking them like, I'm really glad you reached out. These problems, they sound really difficult. Can you give me more details? I want to give you some more accurate advice. I want to see what I can do to help you. Being invested in them and giving them the help they need, that's going to make you stand out. So, build the credentials, but also don't assume that that's going to be enough or that people will automatically know that about you. You still have to be really invested in helping them. And through that, they're going to see what makes you stand out. And obviously, like have that stuff on your website or on your LinkedIn profile or whatever. But yeah, make sure that you recognize, at least at the beginning, people don't know who you are. You need to stand out by being genuinely invested in helping them fix their problems.
Yeah, and it sounds like you do a great job. You're very effective at one-on-one marketing or really just one-on-one communication. And I'm kind of curious. Do you just target people and then send them messages cold, and that's a stage one of your marketing?
Yeah, yeah. At least organically. I have a YouTube channel and I have my LinkedIn. Those are my primary sources of finding people, as well as like referrals from people from other people I've already worked with.
Yep.
But yeah, it all starts with a connection request on LinkedIn
Yes.
saying, I help Koreans working in international companies communicate more confidently and professionally so they can move up in their careers.
Yeah.
Would you be open to connecting? And
Mm-hmm.
then once they connect, I just share a little bit more about myself, give them a free piece of content that I think would be relevant to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, you don't want to try to sell right off the bat, or you don't want to ask them to get on a call when they literally just connected with you 5 seconds ago.
Right.
So yeah, build up a little bit of trust, give them something for free that you think will genuinely help them. So yeah, that's my usual approach on LinkedIn. And then at the end of my videos, I have a call to action. If this was helpful, I have XYZ on my website. You can go sign up for it here. It's free. So most of the students I get are through LinkedIn. I do get occasional ones from YouTube.
So occasional then, because I was curious, as you've grown, how much of that has perhaps gone more organically, or is it still the most effective way of finding qualified students who can really benefit from what you do?
Percentage wise, there's no better way to connect with people than a direct message. You know, you're always, if you DM 100 people, the chances of one of them working with you is going to be a lot higher than if you make a YouTube video that 100 people watch.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So yeah, and I would recommend start organic, because if you can't succeed with direct messages, there's no way you're going to succeed with paid marketing or with more broader, larger marketing channels where you're not really speaking to an individual.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I do a lot of my growth on LinkedIn, and I've been doing that for 2 years. I still send connection requests basically every single day. I've been growing organically on YouTube, and just in the past few months, I've started paid advertisements.
Yep.
And that was after years of really figuring out the messages that resonate with people. So when I do spend money to advertise on Instagram or on YouTube, I know that the messages that I'm sharing are going to really resonate with my target audience.
Right. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
know I fall into this trap is that many people, whether they're teachers or whether they're doing anything similar like a coaching business, I think unnecessarily that they have to have a big audience or they have to have a big presence
No, you
online. They have to
don't. You
have
don't.
10,000 subscribers on YouTube or Twitter or whatnot before they can start getting that type of business coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
the opposite is true. You can be
Yeah,
very effective by one-on-one messaging in the way that you've done, which
absolutely.
is eye-opening to me.
Mm-hmm. 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 You want an engaged audience. You don't necessarily want a big audience.
That's great, man. From
Mm-hmm.
one former expat to another, it's nice to at least connect with you over that shared experience.
Really appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you for reaching out.
Definitely, man. This was a wonderful conversation.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah. I'm happy you reached out, and thank you.
All right, Grant. You have a great night.
Yeah.
We'll stay in touch.
You too, man. Take it easy.
See ya.
Yeah.
Some key takeaways from Grant's interview. The first is find a niche. Grant doesn't cater to everybody. He caters to a very specific niche. It's business professionals from South Korea who are living and working in the United States. And that's it. It's a super specific niche, but he does amazing. The testimonials on his website are proof of that. The next thing is that learn everything. Grant's obviously a great teacher, but when he started his own English teaching business, he decided that he had to get good at sales, at communication, at marketing, all these things. In fact, he said in 2021 that he spent $10,000 on himself just getting better as a communicator and learning all the skills that he needed to learn. Not many people would do that. Next is be invested in helping people. Grant made a very good point about not having an ego, right? Like, it's easy when you're trying to sell yourself to think that you have to talk about all the things you're good at, right? So you talk to people and you say, hey, like, I've been teaching for this long, or I specialize in this, or I spent, you know, all this time training in this area, I have this certification. But you make it like I, and you're not investing in like understanding what the person's problem is. So Grant made a great point about like not getting an ego about it, right? Talk to people, find out what they really need, what their pain points are, and make it about them, not about you. The other big key takeaway is that Grant really believes in building trust, right? Like, he likes to give free content to people that he reaches out to. And he gives that free content like only if he thinks it'll help them. So that's a good way that Grant actually builds trust with the people that he reaches out to and with the audience that he spreads his message to. And next, I love how Grant says you want an engaged audience. You don't necessarily want a huge audience, or you don't need a huge audience, right? Like, he says it's better to actually send out 100 specific messages to people, the right people, than to make a YouTube video that gets 100 views, right? And so he's very good at knowing how to be active when reaching out to people and not just creating content and hoping for the best. I love that about him. Okay, that's all for me. To learn more about Grant's English teaching business, go to www.grantsundbye.com. The link is in the description. You can spell his name. My name is Harry. I'm from Harry's English Academy. Thank you so much for watching.